Good evening, afternoon or morning. Movie Cat is at the microphone and today I will tell you about the intense drama, Lovely Bones.
I was 14 years old when I was murdered.
1973, Susie Salmon lives in a small provincial town in a happy family. For her 14th birthday, her parents give her a camera and a new hobby captures the girl without a trace. Now she dreams of becoming a nature photographer when she grows up. One day, with her father, she goes to the farm to dump the old refrigerator into a hole, where all the locals for a long time have been getting rid of large debris. Susie is very brave and determined, so when one day her brother chokes in the absence of her parents, she immediately takes him by car to the hospital, while barely knowing how to drive. Everything works out and the doctors help her brother. Susie's grandmother tells the girl that if she saved her brother, then she will live a long life. However, here the grandmother is mistaken. Over the weekend, Susie sees a high school student, Ray, at the supermarket. She likes him and this is noticed by her grandmother, who tells Susie about her first kiss as one of her best memories. Meanwhile, the would-be assassin had been following Susie for several months and now began to prepare a trap for her. Namely, he draws a plan of a basement in the middle of a cornfield, through which a girl walks, and then he goes to dig it and strengthen the structure with beams. Some time ago, Susie even managed to photograph the killer when he, in a neighborly way, gave her parents a rose from his garden. However, when the parents find out that their daughter has used all 24 films in a short time, they refuse to develop them and the father offers the girl a compromise to develop one film per month. She resentfully replies that she will grow old before she sees all the pictures. Offended, Susie goes to school for her last time. In pursuit, her mother makes Susie put on a knitted hat with a pom-pom. After watching Othello at the school's film club, Susie unexpectedly meets Ray in the hallway, and he sets up a date with her on Sally at the mall's gazebo. Along the way, Ray hides a note with his poems into the girl's notebook. After class, Susie goes home, where her family is already getting ready for dinner. Passing through a cornfield, she drops her notebook and the note with the poems is blown away by the wind, allegedly by chance. Passing by George Harvey, whom the girl knows as a friendly neighbor with beautiful roses, invites her to look at the refuge, a house underground, built, as he says, for children. Susie first wants to go home, but then stays to watch, so as not to offend the person who worked so hard for this. Harvey decorated the basement in his own way, with angel figurines and candles, so the place looks like a crypt, more creepy than cozy. Susie wants to go home after a few minutes, but Harvey won't let her go. The girl ostensibly breaks out and runs away, but her disembodied spirit is already moving around the city, which slightly pushes a girl from her school, named Ruth Connors. Susie Salmon never made it out of that basement. Susie's soul is supposed to go to heaven, but she stays in some kind of in-between world. Because she doesn't want to leave her family, she goes to Harvey's house, where he soaks in the tub, leaving his dirty bloody clothes scattered around. On the sink lies the murder weapon, a straight razor, and on the tap hangs a trophy, Susie's bracelet. Earlier in the evening, the parents, who, after calling all their acquaintances and not finding their daughter anywhere, call the police. After scouring the area, the detective finds Susie's knitted hat in a cornfield behind the school. A buried underground structure and significant blood traces are also found there, and although the body was not there, the probability that the girl is alive is almost zero. In the morning, Harvey cleans up dirt and blood in his house and also launders soiled clothes. He has not yet washed his shoes, as the police are already knocking on his house. They want to know if Mr. Harvey saw anything. Harvey tells them that when things like this happen, he starts blaming himself. Harvey, of course, speaks of regret, saying that unfortunately he did not see anything, although he is a conscious citizen. The killer obviously revels in the opportunity to lead detectives by the nose. He looks at a photo of Susie. She has a bracelet on her arm, which is currently on the table behind the detective. The policeman is not even alarmed by a strange hobby for an adult man, making doll houses out of wood. In the evening, Harvey decides to get rid of the bracelet, although he still keeps part of it as a trophy. On Saturday, Ray, knowing that Susie is dead, still comes to the mall, as they agreed. There, Ruth finds him to return the verse note she found. Ruth often feels Susie's presence, because she was touched then by the soul of the deceased girl. Meanwhile, Susie is stuck between the worlds. Her guide assures that their souls have their own path and it is impossible to return to the world of the living. Nevertheless, the girl's father, whose name is Jack, constantly feels her presence and therefore is not ready to let his daughter go. He finds Susie's undeveloped films and remembers their agreement to develop one a month. The wife is angry with him because although she is grieving, she wants to live on without stretching the grief for many years. The father does not give up and in search of the killer. It occurs to him that the quick-witted Susie would never go with a stranger and therefore the killer should be looked for among the inhabitants of the town. However, in his research, he goes too far, forcing the detective to check literally everyone. Even an 80-year-old man is stalked by Jack because he finds it suspicious to wear diapers. Later, a grandmother arrives to help the grieving mother and murderer-possessed father. Susie's sister, named Lindsay, while jogging past Harvey's house, suddenly meets his eyes and acutely feels how the man breathes danger. Time passes and the killer has only memories. With each passing day, desire again takes possession of him more and more. When summer came, he noticed how young lovers make their way to the cornfield, and he began to follow them to peep. After many months, Jack's wife decides to leave the house for a while, moving south. There, hard work and the absence of everything reminds her of her daughter, should distract her from her deepest grief. From there, she regularly sends postcards to her grown-up daughter Lindsay, who is already dating a guy. Susie from her world sees her little sister's first-time kiss, experiencing a happy moment that she herself will never have. As Lindsay grew up, George Harvey followed her all the time, collecting clippings from local newspapers about her school and sports successes. It seemed to Harvey that the girl was watching him and knew what he had done. He does not like it and he again picks up a notebook and a pencil to plan another murder. Susie's father, meanwhile, is developing the last 24th film, which means exactly 2 years have passed since the girl's death. Scrolling through the photo, Jack comes across a picture of George Harvey at the moment when he gave the family a rose. At this point, Jack begins to suspect Harvey and, heading to that house, he finds a man constructing a trap. Of course, Harvey does not admit that he is going to hunt his daughter, but says that the trap is built for ducks. Jack offers his help, but the killer is unnerved by his presence and Harvey tries to get rid of the guest, first politely, then more insistently. Finally, Harvey says that it's time for Jack to go home. Harvey's fear strengthens Jack in his suspicions, and the killer has to hide in the house and call the police squad. The detective scolds the father of the family for attempting lynching and makes it clear that the police will not do anything about Harvey since there is no evidence against him. Jack, realizing that there is no one to count on, takes a baseball bat in the evening and goes after Harvey, who is just leaving for the field to follow the teenagers in love. Unfortunately, among 2 meters of corn, Jack stumbles not on Harvey, but on a guy who came here with a girl. He, mistaking Jack for a pervert, beats him with his hands and then with a Jack's bat. Meanwhile, Susie in her world learns that she was not the first victim. Harvey, before her, he had already killed 6 more girls, the youngest of which was 6. In the killer's flashback, Susie finds a large, heavy safe, that one where Harvey hid her body. At the same time, her sister Lindsay, after waiting until Harvey leaves the house, enters there and finds a notebook with drawings of traps, records of surveillance of Susie, as well as her photo and a lock of hair. Harvey returns and nearly catches Lindsay. The girl is saved by her athletic skills and fast legs, and therefore she runs away, taking Harvey's notebook. She runs home and sees that her mother has returned. Not wanting to spoil the happy moment of her parents' reunion, she gives Harvey's diary to her grandmother. The killer now has no choice but to go on the run. He hurriedly leaves the city and dumps the safe with Susie's body into a hole on the outskirts, which, by a strange coincidence, the local farmer decides to fill up just today. Farmer's daughter Ruth and her boyfriend Ray see Harvey, and Ruth realizes it has something to do with Susie. In heaven, Susie meets the souls of other murdered girls, and they invite her to go with, but she returns back the last time, taking over Ruth's body for a moment, to experience her first kiss with Ray. After that, she forever leaves the world of the living. Peace gradually reigns in Susie's family. Her sister Lindsay is expecting a baby. A few years later, the aged Harvey, who escaped justice and settled in another city, is looking for a new victim. Suddenly, an icicle falls on the killer and he loses his balance, falls off a cliff and breaks his neck. Is it karma or the magic of justice? Or maybe the spirits of the restless victims dropped an icicle on him? No one will know. Thank you for watching. Please push the finger up and do not forget to subscribe.